Hi everyone, my name is Heather Hottenstein and I am going to be giving you today some information about Notes and Domino 10 and 11 and why you should consider upgrading if you're still sitting on older versions of the product. First of all, a little information about me. I am coming to you today from Houston, Texas, and I was lucky enough to start working with Domino right after school, right after I finished university in early 1994. So my entire adult working career has been centered on this great product. I started working in version 3 and have continued through to present day. And during that time, I have focused on the Domino systems administration side. So anything you can imagine, doing notes deployments, email migrations, upgrades, integrations, and troubleshooting insane server problems for multiple days. Pretty much have done it and seen it. Very fortunate and lucky to be part of this year's HCL Ambassador class, and I hope to continue that next year. We'll find out hopefully later this week, so fingers crossed. And for the last 15 years, I have worked for RPR Wyatt, which RPR Wyatt was an IBM business partner and is now an HCL partner. And we provide consulting services both with regards to application development and systems administration of Domino. In addition, we also build third-party tools that assist with the administration of the Domino server environment. So a little backstory here. For anyone that has been around for a while, you know that the last decade was a little frustrating. IBM definitely confused things when, first of all, for many years, there was no new major release. And they also put together that 5-year plan, which unfortunately, a lot of the community looked at that as saying, oh, IBM's only going to be supporting this product for another 5 years. We need to look at other options. Well, very fortunately, we had HCL enter into the picture a couple of years ago. And HCL has breathed so much new life into the product. I cannot thank them enough for what they have done for something that I truly love. And what they have done in the past couple of years has been amazing. They have brought forth a true commitment. They are putting forth a vision and just overall saying, yes, this is a viable platform. We're going to continue building it, and we want you to be a part of this journey. They are soliciting our feedback. They had those idea jams, and they continue to ask for feedback in the forum, what was the AHA forum and now is the Domino Ideas forum. And with that, they want to build a product suite that not only has new features that modernize the technology, but they also want to reduce the overall cost of ownership and that footprint. They want security features. They want to have, just overall transform the digital experience of your users in terms of how they use technology and consume technology. So definitely exciting things. So overall, if you still are sitting on older versions of Domino, this is why you should consider getting re-energized and upgrading your environment. I want to take a moment to talk about Domino 9. Domino 9, in the way that it was released, was through feature packs. And a lot of, myself included, you got kind of confused, and some of these feature packs, you just blew off as being bug fixes. But really what happened in the feature pack releases was some new, really cool things that overall improve the security and performance of your Domino server. First of all, what happened several years ago with Poodle attack. Overnight, internet security got upended on its head, and the whole concept of SSL certificates was deprecated in favor of TLS, and SHA-2 became the de facto standard. Well, IBM and Domino rolled with that punch and very quickly implemented SHA-2 internet certificates to work with Domino. So that's something that, if you've never implemented Domino certificates because you're like, they don't work with Domino 9, well, yeah, they do. You just need to upgrade to a newer release. Also, with regards to server performance, or the ability of the Domino server to handle large documents, the document summary data, it is a compilation of all of the fields on the document. And in that summary data by default has a maximum size of 64 kilobytes. By running load compact with the large summary on switch against a database, you are now increasing for those documents a maximum document summary data to 16 megabytes. So something to consider. Just overall, again, it's a performance increase. Domino 9, and I have a lot of clients that were really frustrated by this, had a maximum database size of 64 gigabytes. A way of getting around that was to implement separate view index files. And when this is implemented for the Domino server and for a particular database, then that database's view indexes are actually stored outside of the NSF. So to enable it, you want to set NIF NSF enable in your server's INI, and then you want to run on the database a compact -C with the NIF NSF on parameter. In addition, if you want those NDX files to be stored outside of the Notes data folder structure on the Domino server, then you can use NIF base path to define where those should go, like, for example, a separate disk. A really cool feature for your users and reducing latency when opening indexes or opening views is the inline view indexing. And when inline view indexing is set in the Notes INI for a database or a couple of databases, what happens is those view indices are automatically updated as documents are updated in the database. So it reduces the amount of time it takes your users to open a database, to refresh your view as documents are changing. And there is information in the statistics table about those view indexes and how those inline view indices are being updated. Also, Domino 9 brought to us some new database maintenance utilities. One of the most exciting was the database management tool. DBMT doesn't really do anything new per se, because all of the stuff that it does was available previously by running different programs and server tasks against your databases. But what DBMT does is brings it all under one umbrella. It is one-stop shopping. So by running DBMT against your databases, either through a server console command or through a scheduled program document, you are running all of these tasks against your databases, ultimately keeping them clean and giving your users a better experience. Also, copy style compact. It is a great maintenance command for cleaning up your databases and resolving corruption. However, when a database is being copy style compacted, it cannot be used by the users. It's taken offline. So what Domino 9 gave to us was the ability to allow the database to still be used. By using compact -L, the database, while it's being copy style compacted, can be read by the user. So the data can still be consumed. Also, for anyone that's an administrator, if you have ever had to run compact -C against a database, for a mail database, for a user that gets a lot of email, you had to do it off hours and you had to shut down the mail router. Because if the mail router got a message for that user, it deposited and boom, compact -C was done, it finished. It just went away and you had to start over. So by using mail file disable compact abort =1 in your server's INI, the router is now aware of when a copy style compact is being run, and it will hold the mail until that process stops. Also, with regards to email, your users and the administrators have some more features available to them. First of all, probably my favorite is the ability to control where users can forward their email. Users can create mail rules, and by default, they can auto-forward that email to go anywhere. Well, from a business perspective, it makes sense for them to be able to forward certain email messages to an inside colleague. But it doesn't make sense for all of their email to go to an external email address, like a gmail.com. So as an administrator with the configuration document, you can now control that. Also, to improve the user experience, is the ability to have better fidelity on MIME signatures. And also, if your users are forwarding or replying to an email message that has inline images, they can retain that piece of the message so it doesn't go as garbled or red X type of thing. Also for your users, when they create a mail rule, like say, for example, to file other email messages that have a certain word, they can run that rule against all existing messages, so everything that meets that criteria will get filed into a folder. And finally, for your users that use other email applications where they like seeing the beginning of the email, and they don't really like that preview pane, they actually want to see the beginning of the email in the inbox, you can, on the Notes workstation, set Enable Beginning of Message to 1, and what now happens is the first 100 characters of the email message display in the inbox. And then there are two add-ons I'd like to mention. First of all, Traveler. You know, Traveler, since its introduction several years ago, I think it was in version 7, has just been a fabulous invention in the ability to carry your email with you, your email and calendar with you on your mobile devices. And it's always been important to keep Traveler updated to the latest and greatest. Traveler 1101 absolutely runs on Domino 9 as long as you're on Domino 9 FP10. So if you haven't already, get your Traveler server upgraded or your Traveler service upgraded. And then also there's Verse on Premise. HCL has said Verse on Premise is the future of email. So, and also if you are right now allowing your users to access their email through iNotes, which is the web browser version, you really need to think about Verse. Because when Domino 12 ships later this year, iNotes is officially deprecated. It is no longer supported. And you will need to provide to your email users that want to use an internet browser Verse on Premise. So again, with Domino 901 FP10, you can install Verse on Premise 2.0 and start introducing it to your users now. All right, so now talking about some cool new features that came about in Domino 10 and 11. You know, every major release of Domino pretty much has had a new on-disk structure, which is just a way of saying how the database information is stored at the disk level. And Domino 10 brought about ODS 53. What ODS 53 gives us is, first of all, the maximum size of a database has gone from 64 to 256 gigabytes. Also, for your users that really like folders, this gives them a 10-fold increase in the maximum number of folders that can be supported per database. Just keep in mind that when you want to go to ODS 53 on your Domino 10 or 11 server, you need to set Create R10 databases in the server's INI, and you need to run a copy style compact on those databases to upgrade them. Similar to how we discussed the view indexing, the inline view indexing in Domino 9, Domino 10 and 11 have increased this functionality in that now, by setting NIF view usage enabled on your Domino server, it actually becomes dynamic for the most common or favored views that exist on your Domino server. So when this is enabled, the Domino server actually keeps track of how views are being accessed by the users. And the 10 most popular ones are dynamically indexed. So as your, again, just as your users are accessing the database, they don't have a wait time. Boom, that view is available to them. And the really cool thing about this is it's not something that you have to set per database. Domino is automatically monitoring this. So as your usage needs change over a particular day or over the month, like for example, end of month accounting closing, or throughout the year as applications are used based on, you know, maybe something's used heavily in January, that is automatically updated for you, and Domino is keeping track of it and making that information or those view indices automatically available to your users. As an administrator, one of my dreaded tasks is, you know, regularly going into the Notes mailboxes and cleaning up dead mail. It's just something you have to do. It's a cleanup task. And of course, you're going to get dead mail for a variety of reasons, but you want to keep that dead mail manageable because it can impact the overall performance of the server's router. So now Domino allows for you to configure in the configuration document the ability to automatically delete dead mail. When this is enabled, the router goes into a retry mode when it figures out that it has a message that could be, returned as dead mail, and it will try to resend it a couple of times as you configured. And then when it gets to the point that it's like, okay, I can't send it, it just automatically deletes it. So you don't have to worry about it as an administrator. Also, as an administrator, one of the tasks that I frequently get is, how did this document get deleted and who deleted it? Well, the information in the logs has never really been easy to tell. Through the log file and the database usage information, yeah, you can find out who's been using the database, and you see the write event. So a write event is also a deletion. You can kind of guess, but you can't accurately tell. And especially for a particular document, you can't say when that happened. Well, now with document deletion logging that came about in version 10, you can, by running compact with the -dl on, you can state for a database up to 4 fields that can be recorded when a document is deleted. And so for example, for an email message, I can say the from field, the created date, and the subject. So that then when I get the inquiry of how did this particular thing get deleted, I can go against the server's delete.log file, which is text-based, and I can review it. And I can actually find out when that particular document was deleted and who deleted it. With regards to that reducing total cost of ownership, one of the things that HCL introduced in Domino 11 is the ability to store DEOS and LO files that have not been accessed in a particular amount of time to cheaper S3 storage. And this is totally configurable through the server document, I'm pretty sure. But overall, it allows you as an administrator to say, for those NLLs that are on the more stagnant side, then go ahead and push them off to the cheaper storage. Now, if the user does need to access that file, it is brought off of S3 storage back to the Domino server automatically. Also, in terms of reducing time maintenance needs, is the ability to have Active Directory synchronization in version 11. So if you are maintaining Active Directory and the Domino directory, by using the new Active Directory synchronization task on the Domino server can pull from Active Directory user and group information. Also is the new inclusion of 20 custom HTTP headers, which allows you to have better web security on your Domino server. And then also in that same thought of the web browser security is the ability to have your web browser user authenticate against the ID vault. A quick mention about the ID vault and is that if you have not deployed an ID vault yet to date, you really need to. ID Vault is something in Domino that not only is it providing better security methods in that you are dynamically backing up and storing your Notes ID files, but also the new features of Domino are relying on ID Vault, and this is one of them. So when this is set up in the Domino server's configuration document, you have a couple of options. First of all, you can say, you know what, I just want my authentication to be how it always is, where when a web browser goes to log in, they're going against the person document. Or you can say, I just want to use ID Vault. So when that web browser comes to log in, I'm using the same password that's stored on their Notes ID that's in the vault. And then finally, you have the best of both worlds, where that browser authentication is first going to go against the ID Vault, and if it can't find an ID for that particular user, then it will fall back to the person document and authenticate them using that HTTP password. And with the ID Vault, there have been some improvements. First of all is the ability for the ID Vault to basically repair itself, in that when a user's password on their workstation is out of sync with what's in the ID Vault, it will automatically do a resynchronization event after so many days. Also, there's a new feature called vault scanning. And what vault scanning gives you as an administrator is an ability to basically do a scan or a query against the vault. And that's done by using a qvault console command against the Domino server. And when you run that, then you're basically updating person documents. And both of those features are enabled by setting the respective Notes INI parameters that are mentioned here. An extension of platform support is, first of all, on the Linux platform, CentOS has been supported since version 10. Also, as what has happened with applications in the industry, is the ability to deploy containers using Docker. And so those applications, basically, you build a Docker container, and then you either deploy, or you can also move it across virtual systems. And HCL has embraced that. So again, since version 10, we have had the ability to deploy Domino containers, or Docker containers. One of the most exciting things that has happened with Domino 11 same time has been the removal of WebSphere. I cannot tell you how many clients I have come across that are still sitting back on SameTime 8.5 because SameTime 9 brought in the requirement of WebSphere. And especially for small businesses, they're like, we don't have the time to learn this WebSphere stuff, and we really don't want to set up that many servers. So just to have chat, 8.5 works, we're happy with it, we're going to keep using it. Well, thankfully, HCL listened, and HCL delivered. So with SameTime 11, you no longer need WebSphere. Just say bye-bye. Anyway, and also with the removal of WebSphere is greatly reduced the amount of time it takes to deploy SameTime. So no longer do you have these huge, bulky download packages that take hours and days to install. Rather, for a SameTime 11 server sitting on Domino, you can set it up in like 1 or 2 hours, and your deployment for just chat services are done. Also, what came about last month, officially released, is SameTime Premium, which is the SameTime meeting server. And SameTime meeting server is the extension of SameTime, so not only do you have the chat functionality, but you also have the ability to have meetings that actually have audio and video capabilities. It's really exciting and something that you should check out. And then, for me, a game changer was the introduction of Nomad. Nomad is where now your users, through the Nomad client on their mobile devices, can access their Notes databases in the Notes client. It started out introduced for the iPad, and then through the code stream, it has been extended out to the iPhone, Android tablets, Android phones, and Chromebooks. So on those mobile devices, your users with absolutely no development or code changes are opening their Notes databases, consuming information, creating documents, managing their workload. It's an absolute game changer and a way of extending Notes' capability to your users that are on the go. Clustering has always been one of my absolute favorite features since it was introduced back in version 4.5 because, one, it's just really awesome that you have a database sitting over here on a server that's located, say, for example, in New York City, and as documents in that database are updated or removed, automatically in real time, the server that's sitting in London has the exact same data being pushed to it. And the other cool thing about SameTime, or about clustering in Domino, is it has always just worked. Yeah, it had a couple of bugs here or there, but for the most part, it was rock solid and it worked. So come version 10, we finally get some new features, and they are really good features. First of all is Domino's ability to self-heal and provide a truly symmetrical cluster, not only with regards to the databases and ensuring that they are existing on the cluster mates, but also that those databases are fully functional. And if it sees a problem with either of those, it automatically corrects it. So where this is really helpful is as a user or as an administrator, you know the pain of I created a user on my primary mail server. And if I forget to push that database replica over to the other cluster members, I don't have it. And now when a failure event occurs, that user can't get their email. And the same thing, if you've got a database that is corrupt on one of the cluster members and the user fails over, they can't get to it either. Well, now with Domino 10, this is taken care of for you. So the way that you configure this is that, first of all, in the Domino directory, there is a new document called the cluster configuration document. And also on the Domino server of all of your cluster members, you want to set D10 enable repair in the server's INIs. And also, through either adding into the server tasks line of the Notes INI or running through scheduled program documents, you need to run the new server tasks, auto repair, and repair cleanup. Now, with all of this configured, your Notes databases are automatically ensured to be across all cluster members. Also, this extends to the DEOS NLO objects and to those view index files that we talked about, those NDXs. These also will exist on all cluster members for you. Also, with regards to the cluster and it being able to take care of itself or tell you when there's a problem, is replication currency. And this is where the cluster is aware of it having problems. When it has problems, like for example, a database on server A can't be replicated with server B, maybe server B's down, is it starts logging information to the log NSF. And it also is writing information out to the statistics table. And so, as an administrator, that allows you to create monitors in DDM, the Domino Domain Monitoring Tool, and be proactively notified when a problem is occurring with your cluster replication, so you can hopefully resolve it before your users become aware of it. And then finally, a performance improvement with cluster replication is now, cluster replication is a streaming event. Prior to Domino 10, cluster replication occurred in that when a change occurred on a database on server A, for example, that change actually was replicated over to the cluster member and performed a database open event. So the database was actually opened, and that was additional server overhead. Now, the cluster or the document change is replicated to the stream, and it's the stream that puts the change into the database, and it no longer requires a database open event. Also, when your cluster mate has a restart and it comes up, rather than going against the cluster members and saying, hey, I need your changes, let's do cluster replication, instead, it goes against that stream DAT file. So you have a faster restart. Notes mail, for your users that love their mail. We've given them some new stuff as well. On the user interface, there is a view by sender that's available to them. So very quickly they can look at all the documents and organize them by who sent them and find them. Also, meetings are now color-coded by the meeting chair, which for some people is really helpful if they're looking at their calendar, for example, by month view, and they want to see like all of the meetings their boss has scheduled for them to attend. And also the Mail 10 and 11 templates, they have a softer color palette. So it's not as harsh as the one that was available or about in Mail 9. One of my favorites is scheduled messages. I've actually have helped clients in the past develop solutions around this. And what scheduled messages are is a way for your users to create and send a message now. They get their work done, they get their task done, but the message itself is actually delivered at a future point in time. Like, for example, the new year, January 1st, will be coming soon for most of the world. And your big boss may want to send an email at 12:01 on January 1st, having it delivered to everybody, saying, hey, welcome to the new year, and this is what our company is planning to do this year. Well, Domino now allows your boss to do this automatically, and it requires no intervention on your part after it's set up. So your boss today can send that email message, and the router holds it on the server side until the designated time that it's to be delivered, and then it handles the delivery. Also, something I want to note here is that this is a bit of a parity with Outlook. Outlook for a long time has given their users the ability to send scheduled messages. However, Outlook requires that the Outlook client be running and logged in against the Exchange or Microsoft 365 service at that designated send time. So it's completely client reliant. With this solution in Domino, has no dependency on the client side, it is on the server side. So it's actually better than what Outlook has given you. Also is the ability now for an administrator to have pop-ups occur at the time that the user is sending a mail message if that mail message is violating a configuration of the Domino server. Like, for example, quotas. Very popular for a long time to limit the maximum size of a mail message that can be sent through your Domino server. And the way that this has always previously been handled is your user presses the send button, the email message goes from the Notes client to the Domino server across the network. The Domino server processes the message, says, oh, you're over my quota, creates a delivery failure report, sends the message back to the user, depositing it into their mail file. Well, not only is this creating an overhead on the network and the server side, but also for your user, it creates a level of confusion because they get this delivery failure report and they're like, what does this mean? I don't understand. What is this in reference to? And they, of course, open a help desk ticket and then you have to explain it to them. Well, now, at the time the user is pressing send on the client side, they're getting a prompt saying, hey, this message is too big. You need to reduce some attachments or compress them, that type of thing. So it's more meaningful to the users and it's reducing your overall resources. Also now for your executives that really like to control how their email is being archived, they can now delegate that to their administrative assistants as long as those delegates have editor and delete rights to their mail database. And for people that have really bulky signatures, like, for example, people in sales and marketing, they have, images, they have information about upcoming events. Well, that information is nice to send with like an original email message, but if you're simply forwarding it off to a colleague to take a quick look at something, or if you're in a reply volley back and forth with someone, you don't necessarily need to have all of that signature information there. So you can use a secondary signature now. Also, for people that want to select multiple emails and forward them as all one, rather than having this huge email, now each of those attachments or each of those forwarded messages are attached as a .eml file, allowing for a more concise message being received and easier to read as they can just open up each file attachment. And another really cool feature is the HCL Traveler for Microsoft Outlook. So for your users that just want to use the Outlook client, you can give it to them. This is a new improvement over what used to be called Demo. And HTMO is the ability of people using the Outlook client being able to use a Notes mail, calendar, and contact information within Outlook. It is just keep in mind, this is a separate download off of FlexNet, and it is a separate installation that's done on the client side on a Windows workstation running Outlook and .NET. With regards to calendars, team calendars have finally become a reality, so something that should hopefully make your users happy. And also a feature that has been around, or feature request that has been around forever, is meetings greater than 24 hours. That now can be done. So I don't know why anybody really wants to create a meeting longer than one day, but if you have a business need, you can now do that. And also kind of bringing back into that parity with what's available or has been available previously with Outlook is now the ability for meetings to be forwarded and delegated. So if the meeting chair allows it when they send out the initial invitation, then recipients of that calendar invitation can take it and they can forward it to other colleagues that they want to include in the meeting or to delegate that responsibility of attending the meeting on their behalf. And then finally, also with Outlook, if you are frequently doing invitations between Outlook and Notes, there's better interoperability there. So, reschedules, things like that, they work a lot better now. And finally, with regards to the Notes client, is some abilities to reduce that overall total cost of ownership of managing the Notes client. First of all, in 10.01 of Domino came about the feature of auto update. And what AUT is the ability that once you have all of your Notes clients on 10.01, then future upgrades can be done much more easily. Also, and this did come about in the later releases of 9.01, the FP 9.10 timeframe, is the introduction and inclusion of the Marvel client natively. And what the Marvel client is it being developed by Panagenda is the ability to, one, upgrade your Domino or your Notes clients, and also an ability to control the user experience on the Notes client side. So, for example, you can say, for this set of users, I want to ensure that their Notes desktop has these 10 databases on it. And I also want to make sure that they have, for these 2 databases, a local replica. And I want to make sure that these client-side features are enabled for them. So, ultimately, it is something that, like I said, it's included and can be used as part of the Notes client access license. And our developers, I'm a systems administrator, so I'm a little biased, but I want to definitely include our developer friends and some of the new features that are available to them. First of all is the Domino query language. .dql is a way of doing searches against a Domino database, and those searches occur faster and they have more reliability in terms of the data that they're returning. Also is the introduction of Node.js. And this is also part of HCL's commitment to the product line, in that they understand that in order to recruit new life into the product and new people into the product, they need to make other platforms available. Let's face it, the younger generation, they don't want to learn LotusScript. That's old people stuff. We don't care about it. So give them JavaScript, and Node.js does that. Also, as I just said, with LotusScript, there is some improvements with LotusScript, and that is now the inclusion of JSON support. And finally, probably the most exciting thing that has happened this year is Domino Vault. Domino Vault is going back to the roots of Domino development. If anybody has been around since version, the early days, like version 3, when you had a V3 client, you also had all of the developer tools. So as a business owner, you could build your own database. And that's what Vault is doing, is it's doing a low code approach to Domino development and returning control back to the business owner so they can actually build their own utilities to solve business problems. And if you haven't checked out Vault yet, you can easily do so by going against the sandbox that HCL has made available to you. And just real quick, I want to cover a couple of things that are coming in Domino 12. These were part of Digital Week at the beginning of November, and it's just more cementing that commitment that HCL has to the future of the product. First of all, two-factor authentication has me so excited because that is bringing Domino into modern security best practices. And also with security now, the Let's Encrypt is natively included. And what that's going to allow you to do is natively on your Domino server, manage your internet certificates. There is a new CRED manager server task that's going to be part of that. Also, those Docker containers that we were talking about, that really is becoming the de facto standard for how applications are deployed and moved across these virtual environments. HCL sees that, and so they see native cloud as being part of their future, and they are committed. Domino 12 will support all major Docker container vendors. And for those environments that have Active Directory and your users want single sign-on, now we're going to have that. There's going to be AD synchronization with the passwords that your users can use for login. Greatly looking at search improvements. That is one area where HCL is focused. And so your Notes users from the Notes client are going to have much better search tools and capabilities. And Nomad, like I said, Nomad was a game changer in what it did for mobile. Well, now that's being extended to the web client. So from a desktop, your users can use Nomad without the Notes client even installed. And so what that's going to do is even more reduce your overall cost of ownership and the time that it takes to manage your Notes client experience. And ID Vault. I had said a little bit ago, ID Vault is important, and it's something that you need if you're not currently using it in your Domino environment. Well, in Domino 12, you really don't get a choice. It's coming automatically. When you set up a new Domino 12 server, you get ID Vault. And also with mail. A lot of people, they want to have the, mail client of their choice. And HCL hears that. So they are going to be having basically an open interface to Outlook and Apple Mail. So no longer will it require like HTML does, where you have to do a separate install. This is just going to natively work. And then finally, backups. As an administrator, I understand that pain where the backup vendors are not certifying for Domino databases and transaction logs anymore. HCL sees that, and so they're going to be putting forth an open API that will just work against backups. All right, so I really want to thank all of you for taking time today. If you need to contact me for anything, if you want a copy of my slide deck, or if a question that doesn't get asked now, and you think of it later, feel free to drop me a line at any of these communication channels. So are there any questions? Yes, hi.
Yes. I don't see any questions. I see a lot of discussions from participants, but no any questions for you.
Okay.
Я сейчас не вижу вопросов для вас. Я сейчас вижу большое количество обсуждений, запросов внутри, но не вопросы к вам. Хорошо.
So, thank you for this.
Well, thank you. It's been a pleasure. I hope that all those that attended got something out of this, and I hope that it has given you some further information, and also hopefully what you need to convince your boss that going to Domino 11 is a good thing for your business.
И спасибо вам большое тоже. Спасибо вам за возможность для меня выступить. И я очень надеюсь, что вы сможете взять из этой презентации те самые важные ключи, фишки и плюшки для того, чтобы вы могли убедить вашего босса взять и все-таки перейти на Domino 12. Спасибо вам.
Спасибо. Увидимся завтра.
Thank you. See you tomorrow.
All right. Thank you. Bye all.
Спасибо и до свидания.